Stop scrolling. Everything you think you know about fixing a war zone is completely wrong. Forget the standard military playbook. Forget the massive billion-dollar aid packages. Building a nation doesn't look anything like what you think. Today's explainer is a story of raw human psychology that completely shatters all conventional wisdom.
Picture this: Afghanistan, 2010. Parliamentary elections are underway in absolute, pure chaos. Warlords hold all the real power. Corruption isn't a secret. It's literally the entire system. So you really have to ask yourself, how do you make citizens trust a government that actively fails them every single day? Most experts would tell you it's just impossible.
Well, prepare to be slapped in the face by reality, because military force didn't win their loyalty. Rolling heavily armed tanks down the street created zero civic trust. Instead, trust was built by a single printed letter. I know, it sounds absolutely insane, but the data is undeniable.
Part 1. Can ballots actually beat bullets? Look closely at these dots. These aren't just abstract data points in some safe university lab. They represent literal war zones. Researchers actually ventured directly into this chaos, targeting over 400 incredibly high-risk polling centers. The goal? To run a live experiment and see if fairness could actually be engineered while literal gunfire is happening outside.
Forget the boring academic jargon. This methodology was basically designed like a calculated heist to catch election riggers red-handed. Step 1. Pick the most vulnerable polling stations. Step 2. Walk right up and hand-deliver warning letters to the corrupt managers. Step 3. Announce a secret photographic audit of the final tally sheets. It was a total trap.
Section 2. A letter's anti-fraud miracle.
This right here, this single piece of paper, printed in diary, it explicitly warned those polling managers, your results are being watched, photographed, and verified. And the reaction? Instant, unadulterated panic. Suddenly, stealing tally sheets in dark back rooms became a massive, dangerous liability.
11%. The outright physical theft and destruction of election tally sheets plummeted by 11%, practically overnight. And remember, they didn't achieve this with armed guards. They achieved it with a piece of paper that simply said, hey, we are watching you.
The real kicker is right here in the data. Where no letter was delivered, fraud obviously ran rampant. But the exact second you introduce just a shred of fairness, the fake support for these corrupt warlords completely crumbles. Votes for politically connected elites tanked by 20 percentage points. No way around it. That is massive.
Part 3. The counterintuitive trust spike.
Now we hit the fairness effect, and this is where the psychology gets really wild. Just the illusion of a clean election worked a miracle. Citizens suddenly believed Afghanistan was a real democracy. They trusted local police to solve disputes instead of just going to tribal elders. They actually believed politicians provided services. Just basic procedural fairness unlocked profound civic trust. Look at this number, 94%. Because they experienced just one fair vote, 94% of these citizens suddenly wanted to report terrorists and improvised explosives to local authorities. Think about that. A simple guarantee of fairness convinced citizens to actively risk their own lives to help the police. You literally cannot buy that kind of loyalty with weapons.
Part 4. Foreign interference backfires.
But here is the massive plot twist. If the locals thought this anti-fraud letter was a homegrown Afghan initiative, their loyalty to the government skyrocketed. But the exact second they realized foreign researchers were pulling the strings, trust completely vanished. Gone. Zero effect. It proves you absolutely cannot outsource legitimacy. A government has to earn it itself.
Part 5.
The study's fatal blind spot.
Now, before we call this a perfect fairy tale, past research aggressively warned us about this. Scholars clearly state that rushing elections in a war zone usually sparks way more violence, not less. Forcing a democratic vote when factions still hold weapons often just creates a new battlefield, and that perfectly sets up the fatal flaw in this highly optimistic study.
Here's the catch. They only ran this experiment in safe, highly guarded urban bubbles. They explicitly avoided the most dangerous rural Taliban strongholds because it was just too deadly for their staff. So honestly, we still have absolutely no idea if a piece of paper can stop a bullet out in the unforgiving countryside. It's a beautiful result, but yeah, it happened inside a fortress.
But despite those methodological flaws, the core truth here is devastating. And it leaves us with one incredibly uncomfortable thought to wrap up this explainer. If just a simple promise of fairness, literally one honest piece of paper, can buy this much loyalty and courage in an actual war zone? What exactly is your own government's excuse?